but they often are up above their body and they're watching their resuscitation take place.
Wow.
So when they're resuscitated, when they come back, they're able to describe things that happened that they shouldn't have been able to see or know about because they had no brain waves. These have been written up in the Journal of the American Medical Association, in the Lancet, Europe's most prestigious medical journal, in psychiatry. She passes through the ceiling and sees a red sticker on the top side of the ceiling fan. And then she comes to in her body. She's trying to explain this amazing experience she had. No one believes her. They think, oh, hallucination, psychotic. And she gets one nurse to listen to her. And she tells the nurse everything the nurse said and did. And the nurse was kind of freaked out. And she said, look, I can prove it to you.
Can you walk us through the most common experience that someone might have? So it can be through a story or whatever, but just what are the most common experiences that someone would have after they're dead for a short window of time and come back?
Yeah. Let me say this first is at first I was still skeptical about this as I'm studying them. You know, I'm working as an engineer. I'm hearing about more. And I was like, well, how do you know these aren't just hallucinations or, the brain's dying, neurotransmitters flooding the brain, and two things that first convinced me. One, when people die, they say they leave their body, but they still have a body. They have a spiritual body. They're still themselves, like fully ourselves. In fact, one woman I interviewed told me, the first person you'll meet on the other side is you. Like you finally understand yourself better than you ever have as well, because you understand who you really are. And who you really are is not just what we see here. There's so much more. But they often are up above their body and they're watching their resuscitation take place.
Wow.
So when they're resuscitated, when they come back, they're able to describe things that happened that they shouldn't have been able to see or know about because they had no brain waves. So like, I'll give you one example and then I'll go into the story. A woman I report on in Imagine the God of Heaven, her name is Mary. She was in labor in a hospital in London. This is in the 90s. And she bleeds out, dies. She rises up above her body. She is looking down at that. And then she begins to travel. And this is another commonality, often through a portal or a tunnel, they say. And she comes to this place of incredible light and love. She knew she was in the presence of God, and God tells her, your son's going to live. You need to go back. He's going to need you. So she comes back. Now, as she's coming back, and this is the wild part, right? She comes through her spirit, her soul, comes through the ceiling of the hospital back to where the resuscitation, or, they're trying to stop her from bleeding and get blood transfusion and all that. She passes through the ceiling and sees a red sticker on the top side of the ceiling fan. And then she comes to in her body. She's trying to explain this amazing experience she had. No one believes her. They think, oh, hallucination, psychotic. And she gets one nurse to listen to her. And she tells the nurse everything the nurse said and did. And the nurse was kind of freaked out. And she said, look, I can prove it to you. She said, go get a ladder. Look on the top side of the ceiling fan. You'll find a red sticker, and here's what it says. And the nurse gets an orderly. They go get it. And sure enough, that's exactly what was there. Now, you might say, okay, good internet story, right? Mm-hmm. But there are hundreds and thousands like that. And they've actually been studied. And so Dr. Jan Holden did a study of about 100 near-death experience patients and found that of the observations that could be checked out, so observations that they may make 10, 15 observations, 92% of near-death experiencers, NDEs, observations were completely accurate. 92%.
Wow.
So one medical doctor told me there is no way, he was a cardiologist. He said, there's no way Pete, this patient, should have been able to tell me with such precision the medical procedure I did for resuscitating him, for getting his heart started. But he said I could have used the recording to teach other physicians. So 92% completely accurate. Dr. Holden found 6% were mostly accurate, maybe some details missing. Only 2% were inaccurate. That turned out to be one of the patients in the study.
Wow.
So we're talking about an experience grounded in our reality. And that's the first thing that started to convince me, but also has convinced many skeptical medical doctors that there's something to this. In fact, these have been written up in the Journal of the American Medical Association, in the Lancet, Europe's most prestigious medical journal, in psychiatry, in about 900 scholarly peer-reviewed articles. There have been studies done on this. So it's not just this past or spiritual thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's something real going on here. And this grounds this in our reality. So that's commonly where the experience starts. The second thing that convinced me, and I'll tell you Vicky's story because she has most of the elements. So Vicky was born blind. And when she's 22, she's in a car accident. And in surgery after the accident, she finds herself up above in this room looking down at this chaotic situation. And she's trying to figure out, what is this perception? Because she's seen, but she's never been able to see. And this is the second thing, is that consistently, and I report on, I think 6 people blind from birth in Imagine Heaven and Imagine the God of Heaven, who, when they have a near-death experience, they can see. And when they come back, they can't see because their physical body's blocking it. But they can report things that they visually saw in their near-death experience. And it's all the same commonalities. So, those two things alone, where skeptics say, oh, this is just happening in the brain as the brain's shutting down.
Is that the most common kind of skepticism?
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of explanations, but they all come down to it's brain-based.
Yeah.
Right? So it's neurotransmitters flooding the brain, giving this similar to a DMT experience or ayahuasca or something like that. But that doesn't explain it. Fighter pilot syndrome. Fighter pilots, when they're pulling like 9Gs, they have this tunnel-like feeling, and there's a white light at the end of the tunnel, and sometimes they feel like maybe they're leaving their body. So these elements sound similar, but none of those alternate explanations account for the points of evidence that convince me. Like, none of those people can tell you what was going on when they had no EEG, flat brainwaves. Right? Where are the memories being stored? If our memories are stored in neural networks across our brain and there's no electrical activity, where are they being stored?
Wow.
And yet they're coming up with new things they couldn't have known or seen. So Vicky, like other blind people, she's having this perception, and she sees her body on the table, and she starts to realize, I must be dead. And this is the other wild thing, Nick, is so many of them that I've interviewed, at some point they're telling me they're this journey into this other world, and I say, so you're dead? And they kind of chuckle usually and go like, well, I didn't until now, and I'm starting to realize I think I'm dead, because I felt alive and then I felt more alive. I felt conscious and then I felt super conscious. Yeah, I felt like myself, but then myself not just with 5 senses, but more like 50 senses. So it's wild. And so Vicky is up above her body. She's starting to realize she's dead. And she's like, I feel great. I don't know why they're panicking. I'm fine. She was trying to tell him, but of course she can't be heard.
Yep.
And so then she's like, I'm out of here. And she takes off through the ceiling up out of the hospital. And it's like this portal opens up. Some of them call it a tunnel, some a portal. Sometimes it's a black, there's no light. Sometimes it's a tunnel or a portal of light. they travel. And sometimes it's not through that tunnel or portal at all. Sometimes
They just appear there?
Sometimes they find themselves with two angels or a welcoming committee. These are consistent common themes as well. Usually it's with angels, and they travel just like out of our atmosphere and out into what we call outer space. But here's the thing, it sounds so sci-fi, and it really is. I mean, when you read Imagine Heaven, it's almost like you're reading sci-fi, except there's basis in truth, right? I mean, that's the thing that's so wild. But the thing I like to explain at this point, because, some of your viewers may be going like, okay, this guy's just whacked, right? But here's the way to think about it. Imagine we're living this experience in 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. So, and when you die, what I believe happens is your soul, which is really who you are, your thoughts, your emotions, your decision making, leaves your body, right? And as soon as that happens, your body deteriorates. So the energy that keeps, you know, something else fascinating, Nick? A little side note. Do you know that we replace every cell in our bodies completely about every 7 to 10 years?
Wow.
So who you were 10 years ago is not the same as who you are now.
Whoa.
So then who are you? If you're not just your brain and your body, who are you?
The soul?
I think so. And I think this is proof of it. And there are medical doctors who've studied this like I have and have said, I think it's proof of the soul and proof of the afterlife. So imagine we're living this 3-dimensional experience on a flat black and white painting on the wall here, okay? So at death, your soul is peeled off. Now remember, 2 dimensions, we only know up and down and side to side. We don't even have in or out. That's a 3rd dimension. So we can't even conceive of in or out or where that is. So at death, your 2-dimensional self is peeled off that flat 2-dimensional world and brought out into this 3-dimensional world that was always around you, but you couldn't even conceive of where it is. And yet now you can look back and see what's going on in your 2-dimensional world. Hence, they can see their resuscitation, but where are they? Right? So they're here, but they're here in a dimensionality beyond ours that we can't see. And so then, you know, I've used this analogy with near-death experiencers I've interviewed. Imagine getting pressed back in, resuscitated in 2 dimensions, and trying to describe a 3-dimensional experience with colors, but you're having to use 2-dimensional black and white terms to do it.
Yeah.
And they've said to me that's exactly what it's like. It's so hard to find the words to adequately describe. And that's why they say things like it was more real and I was more alive. Because, you know, you come out, you're still your 2-dimensional self, but you're experiencing more than that.
I feel like they're always trying to explain, from what I've read and seen, the love that they're feeling. Like they can't put it into words.
Exactly.
The feeling that they're having specifically.
Well, and that comes. So in the typical experience, like Vicky's, she travels. And like I said, sometimes different modes, but they travel often they come out to a place of exquisite beauty. So Vicky comes out into this garden-like setting, grass and flowers and trees and just incredible beauty. But what she said was, and the light there was not like I had felt on earth. It was palpable in that it wasn't just light, it was love and it was life and it was coming out of everything. It was coming out of the grass and coming out of the trees and coming out of the birds and the flowers and even this group of people coming toward her, which is another commonality of this welcoming committee. And so she sees her grandmother who had died. And she sees Diane and Debbie, her friends who she grew up with in a home for the blind, who died at age 9 and 7. And yet Diane and Debbie she called it in their prime. And this is another commonality. People are typically about late 20s or early 30s.
Even
about
if they passed away.
Even if they passed away at 90.
Wow.
Yeah. And not always. Sometimes they can appear at the age we last saw them, like if we didn't even know them young. But sometimes people see their grandparents young and just realize intuitively who they are and are like, wow, they were like they were 30. So Vicky, so these are all commonalities. Now, here's the fascinating thing. This light is love, and it comes out of everything. And blind near-death experiencers consistently say this. So I just started a podcast myself.
Yes.
And one of the guys that you can hear talk about this is Brad. He was 8 years old, and he was also blind from birth. And he talks about leaving his body. Actually, I don't think I have him talking about the light, but he did. And the same thing. He said the grass and the trees, all palm trees, and this steep hill he was going up, and everything was soaking in this light, and the light conveyed love. Now here's the wild thing, is that a blind person on earth would have never heard that light comes out of everything, or that light is love. That's not how we experience it. That's not how they would have heard it. So why do they consistently say this? And why does it align with what near-death experiencers all over the globe consistently say about the light of heaven? Okay, now even more trippy. So again, Nick, my big thing is to show this is not new, right? None of this is new. God's been revealing it all along. I think he's just heightening awareness in our global day as everything's accelerating.
Yeah.
So Isaiah was a Jewish prophet writing in 780 BC, 780 years before Jesus, okay? And he writes that there is no sun or moon in heaven, for God is its light. Okay, then fast forward, one of Jesus' disciples, John, writes the book of Revelation when he claims that Jesus takes him up into heaven and shows him in his spirit, shows him heaven. He sees this holy city of God, and he said there was no sun or moon there because the glory of God is its light, and the Lamb, referring to Jesus, is its lamp, and the nations will walk in that light. It's exactly what he said. The nations will walk in that light. This is what near-death experiencers, including blind people, are testifying to again and again and again of the light of heaven, which actually fills everything. And I in a recent podcast I did on relationships in heaven, and how the things we can learn from how things are supposed to work can help us with our relational difficulties today.
I'd love if you share that.
I know. And one of the things that's fascinating to think about is that when we are there, we will share in this. It's called in the Bible the glory of God. And I always wondered, like, what is that? It's like, extreme narcissism. Oh, look how great I am. No, the glory of God is something tangible. It is the light that gives life to everything, and God is love. And by the way, Jesus said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. And so light and love and life that are coming out of everything is the glory of God, but also we share in that. In the New Testament, Paul says, we will share in the glory of God if we share in his sufferings.
And what does that mean?
Well, I think it means, God entered our suffering. That's the claim of what he did through Jesus. Now, God is not limited to Jesus. God is infinite. That's what I'm trying to show in Imagine the God of Heaven, that there's a lot of mystery to this infinite, all-knowing, all-powerful being. But at the same time, God is better than you've ever imagined. And he entered our world through Jesus and entered our suffering and united himself with humanity, with his creation, because he created us for relationship. So the love you're talking about, yes, it's consistent. That people experience this love that is from God, and it's a love that our word love just doesn't do justice to at all.
If you could take a second and hit that red button below this video, it would mean the world to me. It's kind of what fuels this show, and it's free for you to do. Just subscribe to the show, and if you want to, you can like the episode, which helps it get out to more people. It really means a lot to us. Thanks.